In this video, I'm going to show you a few ways to make tile coasters. And these are some unglazed tiles that I got from Amazon, and they have these little cork backings that have an adhesive, so you peel those off and stick them on. And for this first one, I'm going to do a decoupage using a napkin, and this is just a regular paper napkin. I think I got these at the dollar store, so they're not very thick. You don't have to get super expensive napkins, and I just poured some Mod Podge on there. I started by spreading it out, but I was like, it's just going to be easier to pour it. So I poured it on, and definitely protect your surface. You see I kind of splattered some on there. So you want to protect your surface with something. And then just once you have it covered, press the napkin on after you cut a piece of the napkin off, but just press one layer on. And then I would either let it dry, or if you want to be adventurous like I was, just go ahead and pour some more Mod Podge on and cover it edge to edge. Just make sure that the edge is well covered so that it's going to stick. And pop any little holes if there are any air bubbles that show up, because the paper will absorb the Mod Podge and kind of bubble up in places. But that's okay. It gives it an interesting texture at the end. But just pop the holes, let the air out, and then set it aside to dry. And then I'm doing another one here with fabric. So it's the same thing. I'm just covering it with the Mod Podge to begin with. And then I'm going to cut a piece of the fabric and put it right over. And I think actually on this one, I just took the fabric and put it on there, and then I trimmed it off later. And some people will cut it to size and then put it directly on, but I like doing it this way because then you're sure that the edges are covered, and you don't have to be super careful about positioning it correctly. So just go ahead and cover that, and then you're going to pour the Mod Podge on here. And because this is fabric, it's not going to tear. The paper might tear if you put the wet on the wet, if it's not dried yet, but this is fine. You just cover it up, and again, brush it on edge to edge. I'm using a foam brush here. You could use a bristle brush, but the foam will give you a smoother lap on the glue, and it won't show the brush marks as much. So you're just going to go ahead and cover it edge to edge, and then once that's done, you're going to set it aside, and we're going to trim these off later. So I'm going to trim the edges of both the napkin and the fabric later once it dries, because it's just easier to deal with that way. And like I said, you can make sure that it's completely covered and not worry about having the raw edge of the ceramic tile showing, because you've covered the whole thing. Now for this one, I'm going to use some dried flowers. And again, I'm just covering the Mod Podge is basically glue. So this is a Mod Podge with a gloss finish. You can get them in many different finishes. If you're going to use these outside, you can get some that are waterproof or water resistant. And I'm just covering the whole tile, and then I'm going to put these dried flowers on. I'll put the links to all of this stuff in the description of the video if you want to get the tiles or the flowers. This assortment of flowers came with a lot of different colors, so I chose these pink ones because I'd already opened them up. And the one thing that I did notice is that the white flowers were hard to see once everything was dried. So you might just want to use different colors to kind of make it pop against the white of the tile. But I'm basically just attaching these. I'm pressing them into the glue. It's sticky on the surface. And then I'm going to let this dry completely before I actually cover it up. So here I'm just finishing up with the flowers, but you want to let this dry completely, because by the time you put the flowers on, sometimes the Mod Podge is kind of dried a little bit, and so it might not catch the edges of the petals. So do that, set it aside. Now for this one, I'm doing some stickers, and I got these vintage stickers. They're not vintage, but they look vintage. So just go through and choose the stickers that you want to use. You can use any kind of stickers for this, because you are going to cover it with the Mod Podge to give it a seal, or you can use a polyurethane if you want to do that. But once you choose the stickers that you're going to be using, and I chose some that was like kind of nature oriented, so botanical, and then I found a cute one that said merci, because it is a vintage look and it has the gold, and that's this little thing here. Just kind of arrange them on the tile to see how they look. And I chose to trim the white edges just so that it would, I could overlap them. And I also cut the little birds out. You might want to just stick it on completely. And if you're doing this with little kids, you can just let them put the stickers on any way they want. It doesn't matter. Just make a little collage with them. And by the time it is done, it's going to be cute, and you can cover it with the Mod Podge to seal it up. And then you can use it as the coaster. So this is just trimming off more of the white. And this way, with all the white cut off on the edges of the stickers, you don't have to worry about overlapping images, and you can just do the collage on there with the stickers, and it's not going to look like the white edges is overlapping. So once I have everything ready, I'm going to arrange them sort of how I want them on the tile. So just play around with this a little bit, and you can do other things too. You can cut out images from magazines, or you can print things off the internet and put them on here. Now, if you're going to do that, you can't sell these because it is a copyright thing. So don't print things out and then try to sell them because you might be violating copyright. But when you have your arrangement ready, just unpeel the stickers off the back. And I will put the link to these stickers too. These are really good quality stickers, and it was very easy to use them, even when I had the edges cut off on these little teeny tiny pieces. So go ahead and arrange them on the tiles, and then you're going to cover it with the Mod Podge when it's done. And you don't really have to worry too much about this. These are vinyl stickers. If they're paper stickers, you definitely want to make sure that you have a really good coating of the Mod Podge, but the vinyl is kind of waterproof to begin with. All right, so at this point, the napkin was dry, so I went back to trim it off, and you're just going to go through and trim the edges as close to that edge of the tile as you can, and make sure that you're getting all the way around it. Just go around and check, but these stuck really well to the tiles. That Mod Podge really, really stuck them down well, and the edges weren't curling up or anything. And like I said, just goes to, like right here, I'm just making sure that that edge is gone. These are really cheap scissors, so if you have really bad scissors like these, you might have to go over them a few times. But this made a really nice texture too. I really like the texture on the one with the leaves. The cloth one is the same thing. You're just going to go through, and I'm using my fabric scissors here because they're a little sharper, and you're going to trim it as close to the edge as you can. And because the fabric is a little thicker, it was a little bit less stuck on the edge, but I need to go back and kind of trim it some more, I think. But it worked really well, and the single pieces are going to work really well for a coaster design. If you have like 4 different colors of the same pattern, you could do that and make a set. This is a really good craft for kids to do, to give as gifts for Christmas and that kind of thing. If you want to make presents for the grandparents, or you want to make presents for teachers, this is actually a useful gift, and the kids can make it. So at this point, the flowers are dry, and I'm going to go back and cover it with another layer of the Mod Podge, but I'm going to be careful because some of these had poked up. Like I said, the Mod Podge in the first layer had dried a little bit when you're putting the flowers, and sometimes the petals didn't stick. So you have to be really careful and kind of tap it on there as opposed to just brushing it across. So I was tapping it, and then also little bubbles were starting to form. So just make sure that you're kind of tapping those all out. And you can leave the Mod Podge on pretty thick. Like you can see here that it's on pretty thickly, but it's okay because it's going to dry clear. So make sure everything is covered, and make sure you have everything stuck down and everything is sealed. And then you can just set that aside to dry. And once it dries, it will dry clear, and you can see the flowers, and it looks really nice. For this one, the stickers are stuck, so you don't have to worry about that. So you can be a little more, I don't want to say rough, but you can be a little tougher with it, where you don't have to be as delicate with the flowers. The flower petals can get ripped, but these are just stuck to the surface. So just cover it with the Mod Podge and let it dry. And for these, I just took contact paper and put them directly onto the tiles. Absolutely no problem, very easy. And this would be a good thing for little kids to do, like younger 6 or 7-year-olds could do this. And this is the final green tile. I really like this one. It had a good texture. This is how the sticker one looked. This is the fabric. And these are really, this is a very easy craft for kids. And the older kids can do more complicated ones. But this is a really good gift to make and to give to people.